on its letter to the RCMP saying they had found Ben Perrin's emails. Now, coincidentally, Bennett Jones is the law firm representing and defending the Prime Minister's own staff whose emails are being investigated. Why is the Prime Minister's own ministry warning potential suspects that their emails are being investigated by the RCMP?
There are officials in the bureaucracy that are responsible for the retention of these records and obviously responsible for communicating this information to the RCMP. The official responsible has fully answered questions before the Parliamentary Committee and is obviously always willing to do so.
There are officials who are responsible, but the Prime Minister never is. It's the Prime Minister's office, it's the Prime Minister's party, and it's the Prime Minister's ministry, but he's never responsible.
Okay, it's Wednesday, which means our feisty midweek trio of MPs are here to dish out a hefty helping of partisan disagreement. All right, Conservative MP Stella Ambler, NDP MP Jinny Sims, and Liberal MP Yvonne Jones, welcome to you all again.
Thank you, Don.
Stephen Harper seems to be throwing the bureaucrats under the bus. He does a lot of bus throwing. Is that not a good enough excuse that really it's the bureaucrats' fault on these missing emails? You're not buying into this?
One of the things is, and I've been in an elected position before this one, is that when you are the head of a department, and he is in charge of the PMO, and the Privy Council comes under him as well, surely you have to take responsibility. You can't always throw the worker bees under the bus. And it just doesn't seem right. And then to keep using that word bureaucrats, not exactly complimentary in our vocabulary. I found it really unfortunate. And if I was sitting in the PMO's office or in the Privy Council office, I would be saying, who has my back?
Okay, now I know you're anxious to get in there. I just want to get Yvonne before we come to you. I mean, it seems to be a reasonable explanation. It's the bureaucrats that found these emails.
Well, the bureaucrats are an easy target for the government, and that's become quite obvious. But I think the reality around all of this is that it's just political maneuvering. Government figures because they can throw this one or that one or someone else under the bus that they're being accountable to Canadians, and in fact they're not. What we want is full disclosure of information. We want full cooperation, and we want senators, we want MPs, we want the Prime Minister himself to provide the information and testimony that's required to get to the bottom of this. Let then the decisions be made as to whether bureaucrats should be thrown under the bus immediately or not.
You probably beg to differ. I mean, you were sitting 2 seats down from the Prime Minister today. You were in the front row. Yeah, I mean,
the whole thing.
Were you listening?
Well, and then Jim Flaherty kicked me out of my seat. I mean, his seat, so that he could.
What audacity! What audacity of the man, right? Yeah.
But there is an accountability question here, isn't there?
I partially agree with Yvonne. I have to say, it is important to cooperate with the investigation, and we are doing exactly that. In fact, the RCMP noted that themselves, that the Prime Minister's office was cooperating fully. To be fair, too, the Privy Council office did admit that they had thought that the emails were deleted and realized later that they weren't. And as soon as that happened, they were made available instantly to the RCMP, and the RCMP acknowledged that they were cooperating. It's not about throwing anyone under the bus. This is about what actually happened. And the bureaucratic arm of the Prime Minister's office, the PCO, did admit that this happened, that they made an error. They even
How long
wrote
does
a letter.
it take to find out that you've made an error? How long, when you think about it? And in the meantime, you've got the Prime Minister and his other representatives, his parliamentary secretaries, making all kinds of statements in the House. Surely somebody should have gone back and checked. And, you know, I'm a Luddite when it comes to technology. Hit a button, search button, and find what's available.
I don't think it's that.
It seems to me the person who's the biggest loser on this is the fact that the Prime Minister has to stand up and say, oops, you know. I mean, he would want those emails out.
It's been all errors.
No, I'm not saying it's his oops, but
every week there's a new error.
Too many
every
errors.
week.
I want to talk about energy policy. Thomas Mulcair had a keynote address today. I was going to say keystone address, sort of in a way it was. A testiphony address. No, I'm just kidding. It's about energy energy policy. And he's pledged a new way of dealing with these energy mega projects like pipelines. Jinny, give us the outline of what he's proposing, and then I'd like your two reactions.
You know, what we're talking about is a new way of looking at our resource industry, where we extract it, yes, but look at sustainable ways and also make sure that it's the companies that are extracting that will end up paying the price, as he said. But more importantly, it's a different way of looking at it. It's not all, here's our raw materials, let's extract all of them as quickly as we can and export them overseas and send the decent paying jobs overseas. This is about using our natural resources and growing the jobs at home.
But it's also about approval. He said that under an NDP government, Cabinet wouldn't have the power to override a National Energy Board decision, whereas right now the Harper government does have the power to do that. It seems to me it's logical to let the experts make the final call. Doesn't that make
Absolutely.
sense to you?
It does. In fact, I sat on the Environment Committee when we did the mandatory 5-year review of the Canadian Environmental Assessment Act, and I'm quite proud of that, and that I don't think it needs to be overhauled again another year later, and I certainly don't think it needs to be overhauled in the way that the NDP would do it. Yes, they would do it in a new way. They look at energy from a very negative viewpoint. They don't understand.
We don't use energy every day.
They look at
Let's
it
get real.
in an ideological way. They don't understand that it creates. We all remember the Dutch disease comment, and you know
Stella,
that's true.
That's true. And,
Stella,
and so
I live
what
in the real
happens
world.
with our government is that we understand that it's about a balance between creating those jobs, finding the new markets so that Canada can benefit, and also protecting the environment.
Let's talk about the NDP energy policy, because first of all, they say that they don't support Keystone, but they don't want the Northern Energy Commission to have any control over or government to intervene. So, you know, fortunately, I don't think we'll ever see Mulcair as the Prime Minister, so this may not be an issue. But the irony in all of this is the Northern Pipeline. The Energy Board has already sanctioned the Northern Pipeline. The NDP doesn't agree with the Northern Pipeline. So, you know, it's very ironic that they're coming out with this policy. It's sending mixed messages. What we do know that isn't confusing to Canadians is that the NDP do not represent infrastructure development.
Jenny, you get 10 seconds.
Thank you.
Major resource
There are no
development.
mixed messages. We're very, very clear that when we extract our natural resources and use them, then what we don't support Keystone. And then what we do is we grow our decent paying jobs here, we stop exporting and extracting as fast as we can. We've got to stop these cycles of riches and poorness, and we've got to have a sustainable policy. This is about our children's future. We will let the experts do it. We will let the experts do it.
I'm going to lose control again, and my producer's going to give me a hard time in the debrief. I want to quickly go down the line. We've only got a minute left. Something I think you all agree on. Michael Chong's proposals were put forward yesterday on how to deal with, give the backbenchers some empowerment. You were there as a Conservative supporter.
Yeah.
Quickly, is your parties all in agreement that this thing should go to a vote and be passed and put in place? Stella?
Well, I'm sure that Mike is very happy. He's very pleased with all the attention that his bill is getting. I've known Mike for a long time, many years, and I support the bill. I was one of the 20 or so
Free vote
signatories.
in the Conservative ranks? Yes or no? Maybe?
It's too early to tell.
Okay.
We're not going to be
Free
even
vote?
debating it until February.
Free vote, and I have read it. I have some questions, but I'm prepared to support it at second stage.
Free vote?
Free vote in our caucus. Democratic reform is good, and I think this just opens the door to have some really good debate and conversation around it.
Thank you all. Appreciate you coming on.